lived in a cage with a number instead of a name. I broke off my front teeth trying to gnaw my way to freedom, but it didn't work. I walk well on a leash because they showed me what would happen if I tried to run. I won't accept treats from my hand because that hand usually hurt. This story is told from the perspective of Robbie, a border collie who grew up at a puppy mill, cited at almosthomeohio.org and last revised in 2013. It can be very hard to resist that cute doggy in the window, but if we take a closer look at where they come from, that high price we pay for it pales in comparison to the amount of suffering that they go through. Abused dogs for the pet trade because of puppy mills can be solved through higher restrictive laws against them. Before I talk to you about the problem, let me define it for you. According to the ASPCA.org, last revised in 2014, they said that puppy mills are large commercial breeding facilities that place profit over the well-being of its dogs. According to CaesarsWay.com, in last revised in 2013, they state that most of these dogs that come from these situations have health or behavior problems. An example of this is my friend's dog, Ginger. When she was 3 years old, she got really sick, and the veterinarians thought that it was possibly Lyme's disease. But a lot of the tests didn't match up. And then all of a sudden, she died of kidney failure. The only excuse that they had for this was that she was bought at a pet shop, and she was probably from a puppy mill and had a genetic disease that was passed down from her parents that wasn't caught because they lacked proper veterinary care at these facilities. Many of you may not realize how big a problem this is, but there actually is a high number of these facilities in the United States today. The ASPCA estimates in 2013 that about 10,000 puppy mills are around our country, and then the highest concentration of those puppy mills are in the Midwest. A study done in 2013 by the Humane Society of America states that 2.04 million dogs that were sold in 2013 were from puppy mills. That is about 4 times the amount of the population of people who live in the Twin Cities. These dogs suffer. They go through a lot of problems and neglect at these facilities. The female breeding dogs are one of the ones that suffer the most. They are often undernourished and receive very little veterinary care for being perpetually pregnant their entire lives. Oftentimes, their puppies are removed from them before they are weaned, therefore they don't know how to eat and often die of starvation. When these dogs are about 6 or 7 years old, they're useless because they can't reproduce as well anymore, and they're oftentimes killed. This is cited at lcanimals.org, last revised in 2014. Peanut, a little Yorkie, was one of these breeding dogs. She was rescued when she was 3 years old. She weighed in at about 5 pounds. She was extremely undernourished and was filthy. She had 3 litters of puppies. She shook uncontrollably. She was scared of anything and everything. She had never been on a walk, and she was afraid to have her feet touch the ground. She would even eat her own feces after being offered dog food because just that's what she was used to for survival. But this story can be found at CaesarsWay.com, last revised in 2014. So what are the consequences of these puppy mills? Well, because these are very overcrowded facilities, they often have health, behavior, and social problems. Because of the lack of space, they often stack cages upon cages. And according to the ASPCA.org, these cages are made from a wooden frame with like chicken wire fencing around it. So when they stack these cages, feces from the one dog on top go down to the dog's cage. So they're not only sitting and living in their own feces, they're living in other dogs as well. This increases risk for infection and parasites. Another consequence to this is overpopulation of pets, therefore there's an increase in euthanasia. A rescue done by the Humane Society of America in July 2010 rescued 80 dogs from a puppy mill in North Carolina. A veterinarian stated that 50% of those dogs had parasites, 23% had ear infections, and 15% had eye disorders. Now that I've talked to you about the problem, what are the causes? The biggest cause, I believe, is that not enough states require strict regulations against these puppy mills. According to the ASPCA.org, only 14 states do not, including Minnesota, have no laws against puppy mills at all. What has been done about this? Well, we do have the Animal Welfare Act and we do have the Farm Act, according to the ASPCA. And 19 states do have laws and regulations and mandatory inspections for these licensed facilities, but there isn't really a crackdown on the non-licensed facilities. So now that I've talked about the problem and the causes, what are the solutions? The biggest solution I have is that the government makes sure that every state has laws, strict laws against these puppy mills, and that they have mandatory inspections for them. And then the local humane societies can also help with those inspections. But what can we do? We have to realize that puppy mills is primarily a business. So there's a supply and there's a demand. So I would encourage all of you to make the pledge to resist that doggy in the window. And instead, the bigger picture would be going to your local humane society or your local small town breeders to adopt a dog. In conclusion, I've talked about the problem of puppy mills, the causes, and the possible solutions. Abused dogs for the pet trade because of puppy mills can be solved through stricter regulations against them. Robbie has found his forever home, and he trusts his owners completely. His owners say that through their experience, they realize that puppy mill dogs are damaged, but they aren't broken, and they are so ever worth the effort and patience it takes to make them home.